Believe in LA Football Podcast.
Touchdown Rams!
Touchdown UCLA!
Recovered by the Chargers.
The Trojans back in front.
With your hosts, the Coach and the Don, part of the Believe Podcast Network, LA's #1 sports podcast network.
What's up, delegates, and welcome to the Believe in LA Football Podcast with your host, the Coach and the Don, here on the Believe Podcast Network, Los Angeles' #1 sports podcast network. Happy Draft Eve. We could not be more excited to be here. We've been covering the draft on this podcast for a long time. We've been covering it on sportsaldente.com since, December? Getting profiles, mock drafts. We're still doing mock drafts. Head over there right now, sportsaldente.com. Use the promo code, the Coach and the Don. It's going to get you 10% off of your subscription. If you haven't already subscribed to this podcast, you can find it pretty much everywhere: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Play FM, whatever you listen to, we're there. So, Coach, how you doing?
It's the most wonderful time of the year. No, I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
That's how good I am. Most wonderful time of the year. It literally is, like, for nerds like us that love the draft, tomorrow's Christmas.
It is. It truly, truly is.
It's gonna be hard to sleep tonight.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I'm not planning on it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be tossing and turning, and hopefully, I don't know, football Santa doesn't catch me. I don't know.
I'm probably gonna sleep with my jersey and my mock draft in hand.
Nice.
Just get nice and cozy with that. We have a great show for you. We are going to be breaking down the Rams and Chargers full 7-round mock drafts. Talon was in charge of the Chargers. I took the Rams, so we're gonna have fun breaking that down. But first, we were honored to be joined by Renell Wren, former tackle for the Arizona State University Sun Devils, who is entering the draft tomorrow. He's been going through the draft process. He was at the Combine. We have him projected kind of a late second, third round pickish in that range. But he came on the show, chat with us for about 20 minutes. So we had a lot of fun there. So we're gonna jump in that interview, and then we'll get into our mock drafts for the Rams and Chargers. But here's our interview with Renell Wren.
All right, well, welcome back to the Coach and the Don on the Believe in LA Football Podcast. We have a really cool guest on with us today, Renell Wren, defensive tackle out of Arizona State. Just before draft time, and so it's really cool to be able to talk to Renell today. How you doing, Renell?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Yeah, we're doing great, man. We're doing great. Really excited to have this conversation with you. Just to get the first question out of the way, man, what are you feeling? I mean, it's less than 24 hours before the draft kicks off. What's going through your mind right now?
Man, kind of nervous, but it's good nervous. And, I'm just stoked. I'm blessed for the opportunity to, be able to participate in an organization that will believe in me to help them win games and everything on Sundays and all that. So, I'm just ready to get after it. Just loving the game of football. And just being able to have that to, support your well-being for a certain amount of time that we have here on Earth and everything's just good. So I'm ready.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, all that hard work is about to pay off. So we're excited for you. And I know this process is probably stressful, but it's going to be rewarding and going to be worth it. But we want to back up a little bit, and we're going to kind of work towards where we are today. So going back, being from St. Louis, I know you were recruited by a couple schools. What made you choose ASU? Was it the campus, the girls, the football program? Why Tempe?
Oh, man. Really just when I landed in Arizona State, the climate change from Missouri was just ridiculous. Felt good there. And I remember I attended a game there in 2013, but I forgot who they played. But just the student population, attended the football game, like 30 to 50,000 students or, family members and everything attended the game prior to me playing in high school to like 75 to 100 people in the game. And when I was with the with the HU football players at the time. They showed me around their dorms, and it was just outstanding because you just knowing, living in your parents' house all that time and just seeing new experience and everything. It was just nice. So, and then that next day when I went on campus, it's huge, and the weather felt great that weekend I was there. So, when I went back home and talked to my parents, I just went with my best bet.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that recruiting process is one of the one that very few people get to go through, and that's cool that you found the right school for you. Obviously, being there for the last 4 years was obviously you made the right choice. But having to go through a coaching change from Todd Graham to Herm Edwards, what was it like to have a guy like Coach Edwards at your disposal? I mean, obviously he has a lot of NFL background, has a lot of big ball background. So how did that help you in the process that you're going through right now with the NFL draft?
Well, just the coach changes and everything from Coach Graham to Coach Edwards, as you said. I just take it all as just a business and everything because coaches are there to win games at the end of the day, and if they're not doing their job, then they will be replaced. And now we're heading into the National Football League to where if a player's not doing a job, then he'll be cut because a coach would rather, at the end of the day, they have to do what they have to do. So, if you're not putting on the best show, then they're going to find somebody else that's been, to die for, to, participate in things like this, then they're going to go with that person. And playing with Coach Herm Edwards this past season was great. He's been a foundation and just a great program to just, show the people that we don't need just straight seniors or juniors out there who have more experience. But we had some times this past season where he played incoming freshmen and sophomores, and he just let you know that his biggest thing is you play to win the game. So he's not going to put nobody out there that doesn't know what they're doing. But if you want to help this team win, if you're going to do what you got to do to get to the next level as well, then he's all for it. Mm-hmm. So just being able to have Coach Herm have all those connections, played and coached in the league, is just great because he has connections among connections, and it's just great for, the dream that you want to come true. He has it all there. You just have to do your job.
Yeah. I love that you threw his quote in there too. So,
you play to win the game.
Yeah.
You play to win the game, exactly.
So we know Herm, just his personality from being on TV and whatnot in early years in coaching, and he has this what seems to be an awesome personality. Was there anything in the locker room or practices that he did that were just like a weird tradition or anything funny or any good stories you have of your time with Herm?
Well, nothing weird. I've seen this past season with Coach Herm is that players were more comfortable around him and towards memes and everything. People get to be themselves, and when it's time to pay attention, it's time to pay attention. But when when we do warm-ups and everything in the practice field and game field, then obviously we know it's time to work. But he's goofy here and there too, and just having that personality with the players and everything, get the connection even more stronger. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the biggest things, that he kept it cool, calm, and collective. But like I said from earlier, if you're not doing your job, he said, don't have your parents call me or nobody calling me. If you're not doing your job, then you're not going to play because, like I said from earlier, one of his favorite quotes, you play to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, another really outside of yourself, the other Arizona State Sun Devil that's been talked about a lot in the NFL draft is N'Keal Harry. Have you two kept up a conversation throughout this process? Have you been in contact, or have you kind of done your own thing, or how has that relationship been with N'Keal through this?
Man, me and N'Keal relationship throughout the process was it was good. Not gonna lie, we didn't text each other here and there because we both working. I was training up to San Diego the first couple months of this year to get ready for the combine, to reach the Senior Bowl and everything, and he was getting ready for the combine up here in Phoenix, Arizona. And when we crossed faces at the combine, we said what's up and everything. We didn't walk away from each other and went ghost or anything, but we just knew we had a job application to apply for it. So whenever we touch base, it's all good, but we know he's just down to business. So
yeah, absolutely job interview, man. There's a time and a place. I absolutely agree with you there. That's good though that you guys kept that that ASU connection going. But speaking of the combine, speaking of that Senior Bowl, what were those situations like? What was it like to go through that process of the NFL Combine? Obviously, the best of the best for you to be right there with those guys in front of the NFL scouts, in front of the world, really, because the Combine is such a big deal now. What was that like? I'm sure there's a lot of pressure, but how'd you handle that?
The biggest thing was it was great and also stressful. The greatest thing is being able to produce and showcase your skills of what you have up under your wing and everything. So when that spot that for the NFL draft that's happening tomorrow, I'll say for the Senior Bowl, it was just crazy because just being able to compete and do drills like really up close in front of the coaches and just being able to have interviews and doing all this stuff that'll have your name more out on the map. And for the Combine, we had to get up early and so forth, doing psychological testing, also doing interviews. And it was another opportunity to, showcase your skills and have the tools that a lot of people didn't see that you can showcase to show them that you're more versatile and everything. So everything was good. I was blessed to be in both of them, and really I can see myself really high in this draft. So I'm just praying to my Lord and Savior that everything goes well and we're leaving all with happy smiles at the end.
Yeah, you will be, absolutely. So I'm curious, when it comes to the Combine, the physical drills, on-field drills, or the behind closed-door interviews, what was more nerve-wracking? What was harder? Did you approach them both the same, or differentiate between those two? What was more difficult in your eyes?
I really just said the most difficult time was just getting up. Yeah. Really just, the on-field drills wasn't bad at all because we practiced that nearly 3 times a week in San Diego when I was training for the Combine. So I was very affiliated with what we had to do, but I'm not going to lie, I had the butterflies throughout before each drill came up because, I was just worried about not making a mistake, but I didn't do nothing extra. I just go out there and do what I had to do, and it proved out there. And as far as the interviews with the scouts and everything, I just, took everything with a grain of salt and just told them straight up what I had to work on and what I could provide for the team. And, we'll just see come the draft day and everything, which is tomorrow, through Saturday, and we'll see the team who, feels comfortable with me the most.
Absolutely, man. So growing up in St. Louis, did you grow up a Rams fan? Obviously they're not there anymore, but was that your team growing up?
I did not grow up with the Rams fan. I didn't really grow up with no football team, not until a few years ago, because I was more of a basketball fanatic. And even throughout high school or college, I didn't really have that favorite football team. I was just sort of just watching certain players, doing this and that I can study and watch film based upon.
Okay, I gotcha. So if you had to pick one guy that you model your game the most after, who would that be?
Man, it's a couple. I'd say Chris Jones from the Chiefs and Fletcher Cox from the Eagles.
Two
very good guys. Yeah.
Those are good. So on the other side of the ball, then, is there a player you're looking forward to square off against? I know Sam Jones, you played with him last year. He's in Denver now, kind of projected to be a potential starter. Is there other guys around the league that you're excited to kind of get the pads on and knock heads?
Man, him, Sam Jones. I've seen Quentin Nelson that played for the Colts. I'd love to bump heads against him too.
Ooh, okay.
But yeah, really, just anybody, really, I'm just ready to get after it. And one of the biggest things that I had that I provided this past season with Arizona State is my explosiveness, my first step in that get off. So being able to, just be aware of the man and not keying the ball and everything, and just, getting off your instincts. And that's what I just did, and provided me a lot of success throughout the long run. So hopefully I get to keep that up.
Absolutely, man. So I got a question for you in terms of defensive scheme. When it comes to 4-3-3-4, is there one you're more comfortable in, or do you feel like you're versatile enough, like a Chris Jones, who played a 4-3 defensive tackle at Mississippi State, but now I guess he's going to be back to a 4-3 defensive tackle, but he had a lot of success as a 3-4 end. Do you think you could play either one?
I feel like I play either one because with the previous coach that we had, we ran a 4-3, and this past season we ran a 3-3-5. So the 3-4-4-3, I can play any. Because a lot of teams see me as playing the shade or a 1 or a 3. So.
Yeah, I mean the key is to be versatile. So obviously you're athletic, and that's one of your biggest traits. And being athletic in those trenches, you're able to switch around, and that's what coaches look for. So I think that's a huge asset for you. So growing up not really having a team, obviously you're going to be happy wherever you go. We know that. But if you had to pick a team, the perfect world, where would you want to end up?
If I was not playing football, let me say that. I think that'd be a better answer.
Probably smart.
Like if I say who I want right now, and then other teams will hear this. But if I were not to play football, I'd say the 49ers.
Okay, very cool. They got some good guys up front there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
They had someone coming from Stanford, he's dominating over there.
Yeah, a lot of Pac-12 guys. Cause they got Buckner out of Oregon and Solomon Thomas out of Stanford. So Armstead Armstead out of Oregon too. Yeah, so you guys would be a full Pac-12 front.
Yeah, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good franchise, very good organization, very legendary. I mean, obviously some of the greatest football names to ever come out of there. But growing up in St. Louis, I mean, you mentioned you weren't a Rams fan, but let's say the Rams call your name somewhere between tomorrow and Saturday. You walk in, you get to play next to Aaron Donald, maybe even replacing a guy like Ndamukong Suh. Man, what's that going to be like if you get that chance to play with a player caliber like Aaron Donald?
Well, just knowing that Suh actually left. He's a free agency, I believe, right now.
Correct.
Or he's with some other team. But just being able to line up next to Aaron Donald would be, words can't even express it. I mean, just learning from the best and just, taking I'm trying to word it, but just studying off of him, studying his moves and everything, and just being a better football player, and just taking from there. But it'll be awesome. It'll really be awesome, especially playing in LA too. So everything will be good with that. I wouldn't mind doing that at all.
We're in LA. We can hang out then. So there you go.
Man, exactly.
So Renell, outside of football, man, what do you enjoy doing? You got obviously you have hobbies and stuff. What's something that you enjoy when you're not in the weight room or practicing?
Man, the crazy thing. Yeah, exactly. I love the weight room, so really I count that in, and really nothing else. I just play video games on my PS4, but that's it. Really, I try to just stay in, and I wouldn't say beat to myself, but just staying out, just staying to myself and everything. So,
what's your go-to game? Are you a Madden guy, or do you kind of like to use the PS4 as an escape from football?
Man, I say as an escape from football, but I play Madden here and there. But I play this game specifically called Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm not a huge gamer, but I got a buddy of mine had that game, and he sent me a video of him skinning a bear, and it was the most realistic thing I've seen in a long time.
Right, it's crazy. I was actually playing it right now before you guys saw it.
There you go. So.
All right, man. Well, hey, Renell, we really appreciate you coming on, man. This is a great conversation. We're really looking forward to seeing your name called on draft night. We know it's going to happen. We know wherever you go, it's going to be the perfect spot for you, man. We just can't wait to see that glory in your face and see that moment for you. We really enjoyed covering you at Arizona State. We really appreciate you coming on and having this conversation with us.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for the opportunity for letting me to speak on you guys' podcast.
Of course. Last thing before you go, are you having a big draft party or just keeping it close tight with just a couple friends and family?
I'm actually having one Saturday night.
Big draft party, cool. So yeah, have all the friends in and celebrate. So we're excited for you, man. So keep grinding, never stop working, and we wish you all but the best. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, and hey, if you end up in LA, we'll get you a beer.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, man. You have a good night. All right. Good luck this weekend.
You guys take it easy.
All right, buddy.
Bye. All right, once again, a big thank you to Renell Wren for coming. I'm still shocked, Talon, that he had the kindness to come on our show the night before arguably the biggest day of his life. I mean, I don't know if he'll get drafted day one, but still this weekend. And he was like, yeah, I'll jump on with the Coach and the Don for 20 minutes.
Oh, it was unreal. I mean, if I was in his shoes, I would be so nervous and so butterfly-y inside. I don't even know if I'd want to talk to my own family. Like, I would be so nervous. But this kid was cool, calm, collected, and hats off to that kid. Yeah, really, really kind gesture to come on so close to the draft. It was awesome.
And to take a break from Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, that alone, high character.
Yeah,
great
I wonder
motor.
if he just had it on pause while he was talking to us.
Yeah, or he was playing. I don't know. He didn't seem distracted, though. So good for him.
No.
But yeah, all seriousness, best of luck to Renell Wren. It's going to make a team probably happy. Super athletic. We actually have a profile of him up on sportsaldente.com. So go check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about him and kind of the technique he plays and the style of play he has while he was in college. So, but shall we get into some 7-round mock drafts for these LA teams?
We shall.
Excellent. Well, Chargers draft before the Rams, so I will let you kick it off with pick number 28.
All right, first round, pick 28. This guy might not be here. He's climbing up boards pretty quick. He's one of the fastest rising prospects that there is in this process. But Andre Dillard, offensive tackle out of Washington State, another Pac-12 kid. I love Dillard. I think he's at one point I thought he was very underrated. Now not so much. It seems like a lot of people are really starting to cling on to this kid and see what we've seen all year. I mean, we covered the Pac-12 last year, and Dillard was one of those guys. So we kind of knew what to expect. But now the nation seems to be on board with us. But yeah, Andre Dillard, if he slips to 28, man, the Chargers need to jump on that because they're as good as much improved as their offensive line was last year. There's still some work to be done, and adding a guy like Dillard that can slide right into the right tackle spot, and then eventually maybe even slide over and become your franchise left tackle. Man, you can't miss that chance.
Yeah, he'd be a tremendous fit, and it was fun. We covered him all year in our Pac-12 coverage, and our contributor and writer Chevy was the Washington State guy that covered him, and he would say basically every week, like, this guy's going to make a difference in the NFL. He has all the tools you need. Like, he's a great tackle, and really he just didn't get talked about by any mainstream media pretty much all year. And all of a sudden now I've seen him mocked as high as 13 to the Dolphins even. I don't say that to cut your legs out from under you because I think he could definitely be there at 28, but I've seen him that high, just showing that his stock has risen greatly, and he'd be a great fit for the Chargers.
Yeah. I'm not 100% positive he'll be there. I think someone will snatch him up because there's a lot of offensive line needy teams in the top half in that middle meat of the first round. But yeah, he's a very good prospect. I've seen him. I think I saw him go once to the Packers. I think they're at 12, and then I think I've even seen him in the top 10, which I don't think that'll happen. I think I've seen him mocked to your Broncos at one point, actually. I don't know how factual that will be, but
yeah, I saw that, and I mean that had to have been a mock before free agency, before Juwan James was signed, because now you have Garrett Bowles and John Drains, why use a top 10 pick on another tackle. But I don't know. There's some guys out there that do some interesting mock drafts, to say the least.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move on to the Rams pick at 31, and I wrestled around a lot with this pick. Obviously, we've talked about it many times on the show. Rams and Chargers have very similar needs. Both need in the trenches, whether it be offense or defensive side. I think with the talent there, they go offense in the first round. And full disclosure, if I'm being 100% honest, I think the Rams are going to trade out of the first round. They have no second-round picks, so I would not be surprised if they try to get a second and an additional third for a team that wants to jump back into the first, which would then give them 3 thirds and a second. But for the sake of this show, we're going to have them stick with their 31st pick. And here's another guy he's had an interesting kind of draft season in the sense that all he's done is good things, but he's risen, and then now, and this is nothing that he's done, but it seems like he's now falling a little bit, and that is Dalton Reisner. I feel like you were the first person to kind of talk about him months ago, about how high you were on him, and you would take him in the first round, and everyone kind of had him as that second-round grade. and they must have been listening to you, Coach, because then everyone in their mocks had all of a sudden he was going really high in the teens, the 20s. We had Rams guys on this podcast. We had Chargers guys on this podcast. All of them didn't think he would be there at 31. And then now a lot of mocks, he's kind of dropping back down to that late first, early second round. And it's not that he's done anything. I think it's just people, there's so much overanalyzation. What was it that
paralysis by overanalysis.
Paralysis by overanalysis. Thank you.
Tony Pauline.
Yes, Tony Pauline. Couldn't remember if it was him or Chris, but yeah, our friend Tony. And so yeah, I think he could be, and if he's there, what a great fit. I wrestled. When I say wrestled, it was between him and Garrett Bradbury, the inside lineman from NC State, and kind of the opposite with him. He's been rising and rising as of late, and I see him going high everywhere. So I think he has the greater potential to be gone at pick 31, and I think Reisner could be there. Reisner brings a tenacity. He kind of reminds me, not quite obviously to the skill level, but plays like a Quentin Nelson did, who was drafted 6th overall last year by the Colts. Obviously, Reisner plays tackle, and Nelson was a guard, but Reisner, I think, if needed to in the pros, could slide inside, but he would be great as a right tackle or even as a guard for his rookie year at the Rams. And then once Whitworth does retire, he could slide over and be the left tackle of the future. So love his tenacity, love his style of play, great in run blocking, has that mauling mentality, loves to eat his pancakes. International House of Pancakes over here. He's a big fan of the IHOP. So Dalton Reisner, pick 31.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. I've been a fan of Reisner this whole time. I think he's a top 15 talent. I don't think he slides the top 20. But yeah, if he does, if these mock drafts that we've been seeing are true, and he does slide all the way back to the end of the first round, the Rams have to pounce, man. They have to bring this kid in. He is
right.
I mean, you touched on all of it. His fierceness and his chip on our shoulder, and he loves the contact and he loves to be nasty, man. Is exactly what you want in an offensive lineman.
Yeah. So he'd be great fit, and I think he'd love being there with Sean McVay in Los Angeles.
Yes, I agree.
Great. So into the second round. Rams do not have a second round pick, but the Chargers do. So take it away.
That's right. The Chargers do. So with their second round pick, I went on the defensive side of the ball, and I went with another tackle, Draymond Jones out of Ohio State. This is a pretty fun prospect. Really powerful kid. He's an athlete. I think he was a basketball star in high school. So he, as we've seen multiple times throughout the years, we've seen basketball players adapt and have great careers in the NFL. This kid had a great career at Ohio State. I think he could slide right in that defense over there on the Chargers. Justin Jones he could compete with Justin for that starting defensive tackle spot. He's not big enough for a nose tackle, so he's not going to come in there and replace Mebane. But he could definitely slide right in and play next to Mebane, and he brings with him a lot of power, a lot of upper body strength. He can stuff the run. Yeah, I think Draymond Jones, if he's sitting there in the latter parts of the second round, he'd be a great grab and a great value pick. And I think that's a day one starter for the Chargers if they're able to bring him in.
Yeah, and they definitely need depth at the position. So I think he could be a starter, like you said, but even if not, adds tremendous depth to a position of need. So yeah, I like the pick. It'd be good for him. I feel like anyone that plays at like those programs like Ohio State, they're just going to have at least a successful career.
Yeah, they're well coached. I mean, guys like that in Florida and Alabama, obviously, and they're very very well coached and very well prepared for the next level.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, third round. I believe my next pick is at 94. So I think you're still up before me.
I'm still up. Yeah, I got 3 picks for you.
You're
I'm not
91.
91. Sticking with the defensive side of the ball, I went with secondary on this one, Joejuan Williams out of Vanderbilt. I feel like he's well known in the scouting circles, but maybe most of the just kind of fair-weathered fans maybe not know who Joejuan is. But this is a really underrated prospect, a true value prospect in the third round. Potential-wise, ceiling-wise, this kid could probably if he was at his full potential now, he'd be a second round, maybe even a late first round pick. But he's just not there yet. He needs some grooming. He needs to be coached up a little bit. Very raw, talented kid, but he has the capabilities to reach that ceiling and be a game changer on the back end and really help out a secondary there. But yeah, Joejuan Williams, if he can come in and I think Trevor Williams and who's the other starter over there and with the Chargers, Casey Hayward.
Yeah, sorry.
I think he can be that third cornerback, not quarterback, third cornerback with those guys, rotate in a little bit. But he's got decent size for the position. He's a really tall corner, 6'4". He weighs over 200 pounds, so he's a tall, lanky kid. He's a really good press cover guy. But yeah, if he can come in and be coached up by that defense and learn from that really talented cornerback room, I think he could be a feature star in the NFL. And he's a really good grab if you can get him.
That's crazy height for a corner, 6'4".
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't see that very often.
No, and obviously the Chargers just lost Jason Verrett, who didn't play much anyway because he was always injured, but he is not officially there anymore. So they'll definitely be looking in the secondary to add talent. So guy like that, Vanderbilt, a Commodore, why not?
Why not?
All right, so then to me, to pick 94. And here's another guy that's been slowly climbing boards, I think, and this is nothing against him whatsoever, but I think more so just because of lack of depth at the position in this draft. And it's Bobby Okereke, linebacker out of Stanford. Had a great career at Stanford, does a lot of things well. He's pretty big body, about 6'1", 6'2", weighs around 220, ran like a 4.5, 8.40 at the combine. So for teams that need their linebackers to cover the whole field, be able to go side to sideline, he can definitely do that. He's definitely explosive, and he can knife down the line of scrimmage. He's good at shooting gaps. Tackling, needs to get a little stronger at tackling, I think, hence why probably he's in that third, fourth round range. You actually did a very good profile on him at sportswithunted.com. Shameless plug. Go check it out. And I want you to talk about it a little bit. You broke down his film. I think not saying you weren't high on him, but you saw some definitely holes in his game that need to be improved on. But having him in the third round, is that a huge reach, do you think? Or do you think because of the lack of depth of the position that it's a fitting spot for him?
Yeah, if it was – I'm not too high on him, like you mentioned. I think third round is probably reach. But like you said, given the other talent at the position – it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could go that high in this draft. He is a talented kid. He's a good football player. He's a scheme fit guy. He's not one of those guys that can come in with any scheme and perform well. He has to be in the right scheme. He has to be in the right spot, and you kind of have to coach around him. He's not just his first little guy. So yeah, if he's in the right scheme, I think he could provide some value and some depth, maybe a special teams guy. But yeah, I do think if he's in the right spot, he could provide something. Which in the third round, that's what you want. You're not looking for a guy to come in and be a perennial Pro Bowler, an All-Pro kind of guy in the third round. In the third round, that's exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for value. So if Okereke can come in and really provide that for the Rams, and with Wade Phillips, he's a guru, man. He could find a spot for almost anybody. So I think if the Rams do take Okereke, that might be the best fit for him in that 3-4 hybrid defense with Wade.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of why I had him going there. I love you mentioned scheme fit, and I think he would fit so perfectly in a Wade Phillips scheme because you're not looking for that Mike middle linebacker that like a Ray Lewis that's just going to be blowing people up, and you're looking for a speed kind of going sideline to sideline. If Mark Barron played linebacker last year, I think Okereke could do a fine job. And so I think he could actually be a really good pick in the third round and could do wonders for him. Some of his issues in college were simple things, I think, like fundamentals, stuff that can be improved. It wasn't like, oh, he's good, but he's 5'9" and weighs 190, where you can't really fix that. Like 6'3", 230. Now let's just work on the fundamentals, work on the footwork, work on some tackling things. So I think I'd love to see what you can do in Wade Phillips in defense, and I think decent pick in the third round.
Yeah. For the Rams, yes. And most other teams probably not, but for the Rams, I think that would be a pretty good grab, especially with their need at linebacker.
Yeah, Rams, I think the other team that he would make if it was like Vic Fangio's Broncos has that same kind of skill set, the linebacker position. But cool. Well, I think I'm before you again because the Rams have 2 picks in the third. So at pick 99, fill another position of need. Daniel Wise, defensive tackle out of Kansas. I'll touch on him briefly, and then I'll let you talk about him because Kansas is your school, so you probably know more about this cat than I do. But we actually had Jake from Downtown Rams on the show, and he was really high on Daniel Wise, and so he'd probably be, if he's out there listening, he's probably stoked by this pick. But had a good career at Kansas. Last year he finished with I believe 34 total tackles and 5 sacks. His junior year finished actually with more, 53 tackles and 5 sacks. So good production at the tackle position. Anytime your tackle can get 5 or more sacks, that's a good thing. So he's an athletic D tackle. He's not going to be one of those ginormous human beings. 6'3", I believe he's around 290 to 300. So you're not looking at those behemoths that are in the 330, 340 range. But it makes him a good technique fit, and being next to a guy like Aaron Donald, they would just add to that speed and add to that versatility to where he can take over for a guy that departed like Ndamukong Suh. So he has a smaller frame, but I think he could fit well and even slide out to that end technique as well if needed. So I'll let you touch on him.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty good fit for a 3-4 end. Not saying he's as good as this guy, but he reminds me a bit of Chris Jones. He's a lot smaller, but just the motor and the fire this kid plays with, I really like Daniel Wise as well. And I know we mentioned Jake liked him, but yeah, I like Daniel Wise. The only thing, he tends to get overpowered sometimes, he's unbalanced a lot of the times, but again, that could be fixed. We mentioned he's a little undersized. I think he weighs like 280. But yeah, he's another kind of scheme fit kid. But if he can come in and perform well, I think, again, I love him in a 3-4. Not a big fan of him in a 4-3. I think he needs to be a 3-4 end. Yeah, he's a good kid, good motor. His brother plays in the league, plays for the Patriots, so he comes from a lineage that has a football background in it. He's a good football IQ, seems to react well to pulling guard and stuff like that. Seems to always be in the right place. But yeah, I liked it. I like the pick. I think he's a decent pick for the third round. I don't know if most others would agree with us on that, but I believe he's a third round guy. So yeah, I like that pick. I love Danny Wise. I think he's going to be a pretty solid player at the next level.
Yeah, I think the key is just athleticism, and Wade Phillips loves athletic guys that he can fit into his scheme and use accordingly. So great. Well, moving into the fourth round, and the Chargers are on the clock.
All right, fourth round, man. So pick 130. We're getting to the thick of things here. So another offensive lineman is added to that room for the Chargers. I know they took Dan Feeney and Forrest Lamp a couple years back, but they still could use some depth at the offensive guard position, interior offensive line. So they go, and I hope I say this name right. I apologize if I don't. Bo Benchwell, is that it?
Sounds
Bo
right to me.
Benchwell?
Sounds right to me. Sorry, Bo.
I feel like, yeah, Bo. We'll just call him Bo.
And it's Bo like B-E-U-X, right? Not even B-O?
It's B-E-A-U, yeah.
B-E-A-U, thank you, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not the B-O. But yeah, he's a solid kid out of Wisconsin. Good-sized kid, 6'6", 300 pounds. He was I think I read somewhere he was a wrestler in high school, which, I mean, when it comes to wrestling, it's all about leverage, all about balance. And when you look at offensive linemen, those are some of the first things you look at is leverage and balance. He's a really strong kid. He has a motor. He doesn't like to give up. He takes pride in what he does. He's always trying to beat the guy across from him. Doesn't really care who he is. He just wants to beat him, win for his team. But you know, there's a reason he's a fourth round pick. He's a depth kind of kid at this point in the game. Right now, he's not going to come in and take time from anybody, but he is going to push people. He's going to come in and provide that depth. If someone on that starting offensive line were to go down, he'd be a solid guy to put in there and spell some time if needed. But again, this is a kid that could use some grooming, use some time, and in the future, down the road a little bit, you know, he might find himself to be a starter in the NFL. But right now, in the fourth round, he's just coming in to add some depth. But yeah, that's definitely something the Chargers need in that offensive line room is bodies that they can rely on to be there on game day.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be their biggest issue. When they drafted both Forrest Lamp and Dan Feeney, it was like, wow, they got some amazing value there. And Feeney's been fairly healthy, but Forrest Lamp just can't stay on the field. I mean, I remember he was a first grade value and slipped into the second round. And so when they got him, it was a steal. And how many games has he played? Not many.
Not a lot.
So
unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hope as a Charger fan that he'll be healthy this year. But yeah, adding depth is always necessary and never a bad thing. So,
yep.
Anytime and always get those trenches, and good old Bo would be a good fit, I think.
Yes, sir.
Wisconsin knows how to produce offensive linemen.
They do.
They
do.
There's those schools like Washington and Florida are like always produce DBs. Wisconsin's one that always produces offensive linemen. It seems like just good, solid, corn-fed offensive linemen.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what pick number was that? Was that like 130?
That was, round 4, pick 130.
Cool. So round 4, pick 133. And this is an interesting guy that I'm excited to see the trajectory of his NFL career. Loved watching him at Oregon. So just to recap for Rams fans, we hit the tackle position in the first with Reisner. We hit the linebacker position, definite position of need right there with Bobby Okereke. Then we went inside defensive line to replace Ndamukong Suh with Daniel Wise. And so now we're going to address the edge position. And Justin Holland out of Oregon. Super interesting prospect to me. Didn't have tremendous production in college, but the athletic ability, the size is unquestioned. The dude is 6'5", 240 as an edge rusher. That's insane to me. Runs a 4.5 40. That's quick,
unreal,
right? Like that is just crazy athletic. Did 25 on the bench. Has a 36.5 inch vert. I mean, I could go over his stats. The guy's obviously was a combine standout, but again, the reason why he slips into the 4th round is just the lack of production in college. Last year, he finished with 64 tackles, which is good, but only 6.5 sacks. So, I mean, not terrible, but from the edge position, you want to see more production than that. But I think just the utilization, kind of how he's used at Oregon, maybe didn't totally fit his skill set. So I'd be curious to see how he would be used in Wade's system. If he'd be if they'd put, I know he's edge, but if they'd put him at the 3-4 end position, hand in the dirt, considering his size being 6'5", 240, or if they'd have him be a stand-up edge rusher. That would be kind of the interesting parallel. I see him more kind of as an end with them, playing alongside other side of Donald down there, and then obviously Daniel Wise. I mean, we're going to be plug and play. These guys are rookies, and they're all going to play, but interesting to see. But I love the athleticism. He's great at shooting gaps, can really get in there quick first step, good explosion. So it'd be fun to see what Wade would do, but I'd be interested to see how he'd be utilized. But purely based on athleticism and size, it's a steal, I think, in the 4th round.
Yeah. At that point in the game, I mean, when you get in the middle rounds, if you can find a guy that has tools that you can build upon, bring him in. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just need some. It's like building a house. Like at that point, just get the materials and then build it how you want it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's a good way to put that. I like that.
Thank you.
I like that.
Metaphors.
Oh boy. All right. But staying on the offensive side of the ball here for the Chargers in round 5, we're going to go receiver. Not a huge need, not an immediate need, but a need nonetheless. We have Keenan Allen. We have Mike Williams that we took a couple years back, but Darius Slayton out of Auburn. He's an interesting prospect. He measures out really, really well. The kid is a 6'1", 190, really speedy kid. He's shown flashes. He can run routes. He doesn't have an extensive route tree at Auburn, but I think he's shown the ability that he could learn routes, learn a full NFL route tree. The biggest knock on Darius, man, is the drops. He seems to have a really high drop to catch ratio. Has trouble really high pointing the ball. Has trouble tracking the ball on deep balls. Which seems to happen a lot with Mike Williams too. He seems to drop passes that he shouldn't. But if they can somehow get Slayton to drop those bad habits and really hone in on his ball skills. I think they have a true legit threat in the passing game, and someone who can complement Allen and Williams. Has a bit of a different game to him. I mean, Allen is that possession guy. You can hit him in the intermediate to short routes, and Williams is that big-bodied red zone guy. But you need that deep threat. Tyrell Williams kind of provided that, but I believe he's in Oakland now. Darius Slayton, if he can come in and provide that deep threat kind of guy, and help out that Chargers passing game at some point, if he can, he reminds me a little bit of Tyler Lockett for Seattle, and if he can morph into somebody like Tyler Lockett, I mean, that's great. I think that might be his ceiling. But again, you gotta rectify those drops, because if we've learned anything watching football over the years, playing football over the years, if you drop the ball, you're just not going to see the field. If he can clean that up, man, I think he can be a dangerous weapon for Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, that's it's pretty important to be a receiver and be able to catch. But I think it's definitely smart for them to add another receiver. Like you said, it's not necessarily a need, but at the same time, it kind of is, because losing Tyrell Williams, I believe they re-signed Travis Benjamin, but hasn't been very active, or hasn't really done much the last year or two. Mike Williams is still, we're kind of waiting to see him produce like a 7th overall pick. Hopefully this is his year, and obviously Keenan Allen, a perennial Pro Bowler. But I like adding that. Another guy that I kind of like fitting for them, it's a different role than what you just explained, but like in that round, like a Hunter Renfrow out of Clemson. Just he's a guy that's the opposite, just sure-handed when you need those garbage yards, when you need those 3rd and 5 out routes, the guy going over the middle, like he's the guy that's going to get it done for you. Clutch receiver, doesn't drop at all. So opposite of what you're saying, like that pick I think is great for blowing the top off if they're looking for that. But if they want like a sure-handed, then you go a Hunter Renfrow. I think they'll both be there in that 5th round. So not to take the chair out from under you, but.
No, not at all. That's what I love about the draft, man. I mean, there's a million different views to look at one pick, and it's. Yeah. I mean, even with we both have the same position, but completely different guys. That's why I love the draft, man.
Yeah. And let's be honest, this is a deep receiver class. Like, there's a lot of good receivers.
Very deep, yeah.
A lot of good receivers. I think there's going to be a lot of receivers undrafted that in previous years would have been like 5th round picks, just because there's so many of them.
I agree with you. This is a very talented draft class for the receivers, yeah.
Yeah, so great. Okay, so then my pick, 5th round pick, number 169. We're staying defense, and we're hitting the secondary. Aqib Talib, last year of his contract. Marcus Peters, last year of his contract. So obviously the goal would probably be to re-sign both those guys, but either way they either need depth or they need someone else to come in and take over if they can't re-sign both of them. And we talked about him on this podcast a little while back. You had him in your list I think you had him number 2 behind Byron Murphy, I think, on your top West Coast DBs. Well, he's not technically West Coast, but you threw him in there. But Corey Ballantyne out of Washburn, small school kid, competitive, his toughness, plays well in zone, very athletic. He's good in run support. He's a very good tackler, I think, which is huge if a DB coming in can be a good tackler, because a lot of them are not. His probably biggest knock is just level of competition. I know it gets old to say with guys that play in these small schools, but especially at DB, which is such a tough position to translate to the NFL, when you're facing very rudimental route trees and route combinations, that's definitely something that gets looked at, and probably why he is in the 5th round still available. Because the talent's there, the skill's there, has good size, 6 foot 205 for a corner, so that's tremendous size. Good speed, so it'll just be his translation to the next level. What team gives him a shot and how he will be able to cover those route concepts and how he does in zone packages, whether they move him inside of the slot. I think he'll stay on the outside, just being his size. But he could probably play in the zone or in the nickel. But yeah, like I said, super fast, ran a 4.47. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add about Mr. Corey Ballantyne.
No, yeah, one of my favorite prospects. You hit on a lot of it. I think if he slips that far, it'd be a great pick. I would not be upset with that at all if the Rams bring in a guy like that. Small school kid, but has has a very strong work ethic, track background. So yeah, I think he'd be great.
Yeah, and he's kind of projected in that 4th, 5th range, so I have the Rams taking him in the 5th. But yeah, it wouldn't shock either of us, I think, if he went higher. So
Sure.
if you're a Rams fan out there listening, I think fingers crossed this guy's available in the 5th round because I think that'd be a steal to get him there.
I completely agree with you.
Great. All right, your 6th round pick.
All right, round 6, pick 2 hundo.
Hundo.
2 hundo. So Hunter Henry's coming off of a injury in 2018. I think he played at the latter half of the year. But so hopefully Hunter has a bounce back year. He's a really talented kid. But Virgil Green's getting up there on age. So they need to bring in a kid that can really complement Henry's game. And Dax Raymond out of Utah State brings a much different game than Hunter Henry does. He's more of an inline guy, blocking tight end. He has okay hands. He can be dangerous in certain plays, and he can slip out and do some damage every now and then. But he's not going to be your vertical threat. He's not going to be your every down passing threat. He's going to be that guy that can come in 2 tight end sets and help seal that edge for you and help break Melvin Gordon loose. And he's definitely a Virgil Green type of player. But if you got a guy like Hunter Henry, you need a guy like Dax Raymond too. You need a tight end that can do one or the other, and hopefully you have one that can do both. But those guys just don't exist that much anymore. So with Hunter Henry providing that deep threat, that passing threat, that red zone threat, Dax Raymond comes in and he provides that inline guy that can bust a big running play, and he's a gritty blocker. He's a hard-nosed kind of kid, and he seems to like contact. But again, he doesn't have concrete hands. He can, I can see him being a guy that can slip out and trick plays, and when you see those bootleg plays and you see a tight end wide open in the back of the end zone, that's going to be Dax Raymond at the next level. A guy you just don't think about, and you kind of forget that he's on the field every now and then. But yeah, Dax Raymond I think would be a great pick in the 6th round for the Chargers.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Will Dissly, who was drafted by Seattle last year. Inline guy, was drafted specifically for blocking, and then just to prove your point about can catch if needed. For the first 3 games before he got injured, Dissly was leading the Seahawks in receiving yards. I think he had 160 yards against the Broncos, who couldn't cover a tight end if he was in a wheelchair. It didn't really matter. But yeah, I think Dax would be out of Utah State. Utah State's done some great things over the years. They've really improved that program, made it really competitive, and they've had some high-profile NFL players come out of there. And Dax could be the next one.
Yeah.
Wearing the powder blue out in L.A.
Yes, sir, man. I think he would look great in that Charger blue.
Yeah, and if not him, there's another former powder blue wearing tight end that I think would look good with the Charger powder blue, and that's Caleb Wilson. But
yeah, much higher than a 6th round pick, but yes.
Yeah. So you think Wilson gets drafted higher than 6th round?
Yes, I do. I think he'll go 4th, maybe 3rd.
See, I agree with you, and it's so weird when I was kind of doing my research and going through. There's so many boards and mocks that either have him undrafted or 7th round, which I'm like,
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I mean, I know he's not a blocking tight end, but just the athletic ability and talent alone. I mean, if Gerald Everett got drafted in the 2nd round, Caleb Wilson should be drafted at some point. Definitely not.
Caleb Wilson's a good player. Caleb Wilson is a very good football player.
Yes, very good football. I mean, the fact that he got committed to play quarterback at Old Dominion and then changed his mind to play tight end just shows his football IQ and athletic ability. But I digress. Okay, where was I? I'm my pick now. Pick 203. Do we stay in the secondary for the Rams? Just signed. Oh Lord, obviously John Johnson is safety, and we just signed from Baltimore. Weddle, thank you, Eric Weddle. Not thank you, you didn't help me, but I figured it out.
I was gonna say I didn't do anything, but you're welcome.
Just signed Eric Weddle to a 2-year deal, which I think was a great value signing. Only giving him about $5 million a year. I think he's gonna do really good things for that secondary for this year, next year, but it's not a long-term option. Need to get some youth back there. Need to get some depth. So the Rams at pick 203 take Marvell Tell, safety, right in their backyard. USC, grew up in Pasadena, so he's a local LA prospect. Would love to stay home. Would love to play for his hometown team. He slips this far mainly just because of He's not great with pursuit angles, not great tackling in space. Needs to definitely work on that. Effort was an issue sometimes. There's a lot of film that I was watching where if the play wasn't run to his side, he wouldn't even give a pursuit, basically just kind of let the play go. So that's obviously an issue. I think he loves the game, so I think that can be fixed, and hopefully at the NFL level it can be, but that's why he's getting drafted in the 6th round and not a 3rd or 4th round. But I think he'd be a good fit for the Rams, just their scheme. He's a hard-hitting safety, plays downhill. Obviously, I mentioned effort, but when he's in it, he plays downhill, gets after running backs, not afraid to get his hands dirty, his nose dirty. He's quick, athletic, fairly big for a safety, 6'1", about 200. Or 6'2", excuse me, so pretty good size. So yeah, Marvell Tell, I like it in the 6th. It's a 6th round pick that at worst plays special teams, at best is starting 3 years from now and is actually pretty successful on the field.
Yeah, I like that. I have no problems with that. I think Marvell Tell would be a great pick in the 6th round. He can come in and provide something for your team, which is, that late in the draft. Yeah, why not? Floor, I think he would be a special teams kid. Ceiling, yeah, he'd be a situational. I wouldn't say a ceiling. He's a situational kid. His ceiling's probably I don't know, maybe a 2-down, 3-down safety that gets taken off the field in certain situations. But I do like that pick. I do like Marvell Tell. I think he's a sneaky pick. He's a pretty underrated. I don't think he's going to come in and go to Pro Bowls every year. But yeah, he's a solid guy.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of 3 or 4 years ago, the Broncos drafted a guy in the 6th round by the name of Will Parks, safety out of Arizona, who was kind of drafted similarly, good hitter, not a tremendous tackler, but was going to play situationally. Obviously, at the time, the Broncos had 2 Pro Bowl safeties, and then they drafted also a safety in the 3rd round, Justin Simmons. They drafted 2 safeties that year. And then now going into this year, it's looking like Parks. So what are we now? Year 4, Parks will be starting alongside Justin Simmons. So that's kind of like the feeling with Marvell Tell. Like get him behind some good Pro Bowlers, Don Johnson and Eric Weddle. Let him kind of get his feet wet, sure up the tackling, make sure the effort is there, and then 3-4 years down the line, maybe he can take over that starting role when he's really grown into his ability. So we'll see.
I like that. Yeah, I think he has some potential there for sure.
Definitely. And why not take the local kid, hometown, right in the backyard?
Why not, man? Yeah, you got a good look at him.
Yeah. So, all right, last pick for the Chargers, the 7th round.
All right. Going to go back to the defense. We've spent the last 3 picks on offense. We're going to bring in a guy that has a very good pedigree, a championship pedigree, if you will. Trey Lamar out of the national champion Clemson. Very well coached with Venables down there in Clemson. Mm-hmm. But this is a kid that is that's restricted. He's not an every down guy. He's a 2-down linebacker. He's great inside the box. But if you expect him to string plays out or play outside that tackle box, it's just not going to happen. You're going to be disappointed. But yeah, if you get a Trey Lamar type of guy, very big kid, very good size for a linebacker, 6'3", 250, thumper kind of guy. He would be great in goal line situations. Great tackling ability, really good at stopping the run. But he definitely has he has hindrances and pass coverage, and he's not the best athlete in the world. But yeah, when it comes to goal line situations or just needing a guy to come in and lay the wood and someone like that, Trey Lamar is your guy. And if you can bring a guy like that in the 7th round who loves the game of football, who has a high motor, has a nose for the football, bring him in. He'd be great for the locker room. He'd be great to bring in and great for your culture. Coming from a program that's really well led like Clemson, I think he'd be a really good guy to bring in character wise. And 2-down guy that is not, he's never going to be your every down linebacker. He's never going to be your Ray Lewis, like we mentioned earlier. He's never going to be your Brian Urlacher, but he's going to be he's a good guy to have on your roster in certain situations. And I really do like him in the goal line. And I think Trey Lamar would be great. Yeah,
great pick. We mentioned schools like Washington and Florida with their DBs, Wisconsin with their offensive linemen, Notre Dame with their offensive linemen, but we didn't mention Clemson former national champion Clemson. Pretty much anyone on defense, go ahead and take them, and they'll be fine. So that's a great pick in the 7th round. If you're getting a guy from Clemson, you should be all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
With
absolutely.
Venables and Dabo Swinney, I trust any of those kids to come in and make some kind of impact. So
yep.
I like it. So, all right, pick 251 for the Rams. We've pretty much had a defensive-heavy draft for the Los Angeles Rams, which when you had the number – were they number 1 offense or number 2? Was KC 1 or 2? It was LA or KC was 1 and 2.
I think KC finished 1, but –
it was close.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Because I think with Gurley toward the end of the year kind of falling off, and I feel like the Chiefs ended up taking it. But
well, either way,
I could double check that.
If you have a top 2 offense and your defense is in the bottom half of the league, then that's why in the draft you're probably going to address more defensive positions, which is what we did.
Sure.
But for the last pick, we do go back to the offensive side. And this is probably one of my favorite picks, great value pick, I think. I would be ecstatic, I think, if they took him here. And it's James Boobie Williams, running back out of Washington State. So obviously Todd Gurley, all world, but there's no one wants to talk about it, but there's still those question marks about the whole arthritis in the knee. They picked up, or whatever you call it, they took the tender for Malcolm Brown, excuse me. So he'll be there another year, but he hasn't been re-signed. And then they still have Kelly from Tennessee, rookie last year, so they have some depth. But it doesn't hurt. You want to add another camp body, and James Williams, I think, is a tremendous dual-threat running back. Rushed for over 500 yards, received for over 500 yards as well, I believe. Had 12 rushing touchdowns, had like 4 receiving touchdowns. So he's just a great dual threat. Obviously, coming from a Washington State offense, there was that spread offense. It's hard to kind of gauge how a running back runs when they have so wide of lanes, just because it's a spread offense, obviously. So that it's a little different, but I still think he'd be able to fit in with what Sean McVay does and what they use, and he would essentially be used as a third down back to spell Gurley to catch balls out of the backfield. And he has wiggle, has great speed, has tremendous balance. Even between the tackles, had good balance, making moves. So hence his nickname's Booby Miles. Yeah, I would love James Williams in the 7th round. I think he'd be a great pick, and I think he'd be a great fit for a McVay offense.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great compliment to that running back room. Great compliment to Todd Gurley. Really good receiving threat, like you mentioned. I love James Williams. I love his tape. Makes guys miss in space. Really one of the toughest guys to bring down once he gets going. I think that would be a home run hit, especially in the round in the 7th round. Yeah,
he'd be. He's not quite as good between. I mean, it's hard to say this now with how good of a rookie season he had, but coming into the draft last year, I feel like this comparison would have been okay. He's not as good between the tackles as a Phillip Lindsay, running back out of Colorado, is. I think Phillip Lindsay, for his size, even in college, was so good between the tackles, and then we saw that his rookie year as well. Williams is not quite as good just because of that spread. When things were tighter, he was hesitant, but being that he's that dual threat and kind of has that same similar size, 5'11", 195, he gives you that, when the team's lining up, the defense is not going to know if they're running or passing, which is what the Rams do so well. That's what made Gurley so great when McVay came over, was how involved he was in the passing game. So, he'd be, I think, a great compliment.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I don't know if this is a good comparison or not, but he reminds me a little bit of Danny Woodhead. That kind of kid, that shorter. I mean, like a guy that can come in and provide something that your normal running back doesn't. He's gonna sneak out and get in that passing game, and someone you don't expect to be a home run hitter, but once you see him on the field, you kind of think, how did this guy not get drafted earlier? Yeah. I think that's what's going to happen. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Danny Woodhead, who's a D2 product, but smaller sized guy, but just the Energizer Bunny, man, just keeps going and going and going. Oh
yeah, that's a great comp. I like that comp a lot. What was it? Shadron State, was that Danny Woodhead's school?
Shadron State, yeah.
Nice.
Old D2 somewhere in Nebraska.
Midwest, baby.
Yep.
Yeah, another name that kind of just I haven't comped the film really, but just kind of like jumps out at me is Jerick Mckinnon. Back during his Minnesota days, he was that change of pace guy that would come in for whether it was Latavius Murray or then when they drafted out of Florida State, their running back currently.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Minnesota's running back right now out of Florida State.
Oh, Dalvin Cook.
Thank you. I kept wanting to say Derwin James. They went to the same school, but obviously different position. Dalvin Cook, but he was that change of pace guy that could catch balls. I still personally found it shocking that San Francisco decided to pay him as much as they did, considering the type of running back he is. But James Williams can be that same complement and that same addition to the backfield that would add a lot. So, and at 7th round value, why not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't mind that Dalvin Cook type of comparison. I don't think he's quite as talented, but definitely could be that type of guy where you provide a little bit of run game, a little bit of passing game.
Yeah. Well, no.
I like it.
Comp to Jerick McKinnon, not Dalvin Cook. I was saying how Jerick McKinnon would spell Dalvin Cook
Gotcha.
on like third down.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No. He's not a Dalvin Cook. No, we're not going that way. Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go. There's the 2019 NFL draft for the Chargers and Rams. What do we get if we get every one of these picks right? Just a pat on each other's backs, or?
I mean, at this point, I don't know what else we can do. I mean, maybe just hype the hell out of this podcast and say we recorded this the day before we did it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, those of you listening, I would hope you would do this anyway. But if we get even like 2 of these picks right, share this with 5 of your friends. That's how we spread the word. So if you're listening right now and if we get 2 of these right, please share this with 5 of your friends or family. I mean, I'd hope you would do that anyway. It's really not that hard nowadays with social media. We'd appreciate it.
2 total or 2 each?
I'm confident. Let's go 2 each.
I was leaning toward 2 each too because I feel confident.
I feel good. About it. And hey, I'm gonna be honest. If the Rams did this draft, that they would knock it out of the park. That's an A+ draft right there. That's
an NFL GM draft.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that.
Oh yeah. Les Snead and Tom Telesco over here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Talon Graff and Ryan Dyrud. Who are they? But there we have
it. They're nobodies right now.
Nobodies. So, oh man, I'm just excited, man. Draft Eve.
Yeah. Whenever we hop off here, I don't know if I'll lay in bed quite yet, but I'm gonna get draft day going. You know, we have that annual tradition. We got to watch draft day some point before the draft. I went to the very last second. Get me in the mood, man. As soon as I hear that music and get that vibe going, I love that movie.
Oh yeah,
I love that movie.
Well, you know my tradition. I watch it every single night of the week.
So you watch it like 7 nights in a row.
Yeah, the week of the draft, I watch it every night. So I'm going on like night 5 right now of watching it. So I'm gonna pop it in here and. Yeah, you got to watch it every night. My wife by now is like, "You're really going to go through this?" I'm like, "Babe, we do it like it's like the 4th year I've been doing it, so you can't stop me now."
It's like this instead of Hanukkah, you're celebrating the 7th night of draft day.
Exactly. 8 crazy drafts. But it's all the same. It's still Vontae Mack no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't change.
Here's my question. I think I'm just going out on a limb here. But I think we should now do this every year. Every year we need to have our dedicated Vontae Mack. So for you, I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
Who is your Vontae Mack of this draft? No matter what, who do you take?
Ooh. So is this if I'm picking 1 overall, or is this if I'm the Rams 31, or my team, who's the Broncos, at 10? What am I assessing this as?
Oh man. I guess that's a good question. I probably should have thought about that a little bit more.
Or if I just
number 1 overall.
So if I just had a pool of any player in this draft, who is my
any player in this draft, and you have 1 player that you want on your team, no matter what, who are you taking?
Oh man,
I know who mine is. You can probably guess it.
I can guess it, but I'll let you say it. Well, I think still.
It's Dalton Reisner.
Yeah.
It's Dalton Reisner. The kid loves to play football. He's got a motor. He loves contact. He doesn't back down from anybody. One of his best tapes that I saw was against Mississippi State's Montez Sweat, who's a top guy. I know he has a heart condition.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything turned out with him. But yeah, I love Dalton Reisner. If I'm a GM, that's my guy. That is, even if I don't need an offensive lineman, that's my guy because Dalton Reisner is going to be a star in this league. He reminds me so much of Oh, lordy. Brian O'Neill from Minnesota. He played at Pitt, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, he was at Pitt, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a kid I think they got in the second or third round, but he starts at right tackle. He just a ferocious kind of guy who doesn't back down, like I mentioned. And Dalton Reisner is my dog, man. I've said it from day one, and I'm gonna say it till draft eve, man. Dalton Reisner, he's gonna have a great career in this league, and I'll just go and say it. This guy's a future Hall of Famer.
Damn. Okay, I like it. So you had the first pick overall. You're taking Dalton Reisner.
I might trade back and get a little bit more value for it, but yes, Dalton Reisner, no matter what. If I make the mistake of trading up for Kyler Murray, and then I get cold feet, I'm still taking Dalton Reisner number 1 overall.
I love it. Just in the draft day sense, man. That's a good. I feel like I'm looking through it, and there's a lot of guys in this year's draft. Let me put it this way: there's really no players that I don't like, if that makes sense. So like last year, for instance. And this is not personally, I don't dislike them as people, but just as players. I didn't like Josh Allen, quarterback. Didn't like Lamar Jackson, quarterback.
Sure.
I could go through a list. There's more, but there's certain guys that I was just like, don't love their game. This year's draft, I feel differently. There's really not many that I'm like, ooh, I do not want that guy. But there's not really a guy that I'm like you with Reisner that I just love. I think if I had to pick one, I love N'Keal Harry. Love him.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Being a receiver myself, loved his game. Some of the amazing acrobat catches. Love his size, his speed, his skill set. He's my receiver one. I don't care what people say about DK Metcalf. I love N'Keal Harry. So I guess if it was my no matter what player, it'd have to be N'Keal Harry.
That would probably be my number 2. I love N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
We followed him all last year too.
Yeah.
Man, he's going to be a good player.
He is. I think he's
going to be a Rookie of the Year candidate by the end of the year.
I think so. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, and people are going to be wondering why this kid didn't get as good of draft coverage as he did, considering his production in college, how much greater it was than the other receivers. So, yeah, there we go. I'll say it till the draft's over. I'm still big on Locke. I like Drew Locke, but I love N'Keal Harry a little more. I'm more confident. Locke I like, and I see what he can do, but there's still question marks. N'Keal Harry, I'm like, he's going to be a star.
I feel you. I like it, dude. I'm down. That's a good pick.
Yeah, so. Oh, well, this is fun, man. I love the draft. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Happy draft. Enjoy it. We will be, if anyone wants to come hang out with us in LA, we're actually going to be with a lot of different Believe hosts. So our network, the Believe Sports Podcast Network, we'll be hanging out. Where are we going to be? Rock and Riley's in
West Hollywood.
West Hollywood. So come give us a shout. If you're listening, come down there and shout out Coach and the Don, and we'll buy you a drink. Why not?
Absolutely. Yeah, 21 or older. I'm just going to go ahead and
thank you.
Get that out there now.
Yeah. 21 or older. But yeah, I'd be down to have a whiskey with some of you guys. So yeah, give us a shout. We'll buy you a drink. Rock and Riley's.
Absolutely. Yeah, happy draft, everybody.
So, well, yeah, thanks, everyone. We appreciate you listening. Once again, head to sportsaldente.com. Use the promo code The Coach and the Don. Get you 10% off any subscription package. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts. Or just head to Believe.com or sportsaldente.com, and you can find it there. Coach, I will be seeing you tomorrow.
All right, buddy.
Bright and early.
I will see you in the AM.
Awesome. So, guys, enjoy the draft. We'll talk to you soon.
Believe in LA Football Podcast.
Touchdown Rams!
Touchdown, UCLA!
Recovered by the Chargers.
The Trojans back in front.
With your hosts, the Coach and the Don, part of the Believe Podcast Network, LA's #1 sports podcast network.